أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah everyone doing great. Inshallah we will continue with the part 2, the staff of Moses. We started last week. Last week we studied the story of Moses as it take place in the desert. They were looking for water, and Moses would use his staff to get the water out of rock. And we try to understand what it means getting water out of rock and what the staff of Moses represents in our life. I guess one idea was that the staff of Moses gets the water out of the rock right within the moment, like it comes out of the rock directly. He's not trying to get the water by, digging a well or trying to bring water from the mountains. He's just hitting the rock and water gush forth. And we said maybe we could understand the staff of Moses as Quranic methodology, Quranic wisdom. And Quranic wisdom would hit anything in our life and would bring mercy, compassion, wisdom right from the object it hits. Like we see disaster happening, by looking at the Quranic wisdom we will see how mercy is manifested there, how wisdom is manifested there, and so on. We said also we could take it as an alternative worldview in which people will come. We will study these aspects more this week, inshallah. But people come with some ideologies or some ideas, some claims about the reality, and staff of Moses would hit them and show us whether there is any water in it or whether they are dry or not. So this is how we take the staff of Moses, and inshallah we will study another aspect of staff of Moses this week. And just a second, I forgot to open my notes. I apologize. Waiting for it. Okay, here's some background on the story that we will study today. So, if you take a historical, if you follow an historical account, this story takes place before the story we studied last week. But since we're trying to read this story of ourselves, we approach Qur'an as if it's not as if actually as it is speaking to us in this very moment. So all these historical backgrounds or historical claims about the stories taking place, when or where they're taking place, kind of disappears, right? So whichever part of the Quran you start reading, it will speak to you right in the moment. It will speak to you, not someone else, but to you. So keeping this in mind, let's have some background of the parts that we will study, inshallah, today. Is there anyone who can read the Arabic so fast so that we can cover all of them. Please go ahead.
So would you like me to read all of it at once?
Yes, please.
قال إن كنت جئت بآية فأتي بها إن كنت من الصادقين فألقى عصاه فإذا هي ثعبان مبين ونزع يداه فإذا هي بيضاء للناظرين قال الملأ من قوم فرعون إن هذا لساحر عليم يريد أن يخرجكم من أرضكم فماذا تأمرون قالوا أرجه وأخاه وأرسل في المدائن حاشرين يأتوك بكل ساحر عليم.
And anyone else, like another one, to read the English version for us, inshallah? Any volunteer? Would you like to read the English part?
Said Pharaoh, if you have come with a sign, produce. If you are a man of truth. Thereupon Moses stood on his staff, and lo, it was a serpent, plainly visible. And he drew forth his hand, and lo, it appeared shining white to the beholders. The great ones among Pharaoh's people said, verily, this is indeed a sorcerer of great knowledge, who wants to drive you out of the land. Said Pharaoh, what then do you advise? They answered, let him and his brother a while, and send unto all cities heralds, who shall bring before you every sorcerer of great knowledge.
So, again, if we take it as just a story, what happens, Moses and his brother Harun was assigned a task. They should go to Pharaoh, and warn him. And they were advised to be nice, like speaking nicely, just in case the Pharaoh gets some advice out of it. And now they are in front of the Pharaoh and giving the message to Pharaoh. And in return, Pharaoh says, if you have come with a sign, produce it, if you are a man of truth. So, if you came with something real, just let us see it. Thereupon Moses threw down his staff, and lo, it was a serpent, plainly visible. So we may take them just mere miracles, something extraordinary happening, and Moses trying to convince Pharaoh by showing some miracles. That's one, I guess, reading of it. But as we will, inshallah, study, there are some other layers as well. As far as, at least, is what I think. You may share, disagree, inshallah. We can hear your disagreements as well. And he drew forth his hand, and lo, it appeared shining white to the beholders. So he puts his hand, the right hand, right? And then take it off, and it becomes like it's shining, it's white, pure white. The great ones among Pharaoh's people said, verily this is indeed a sorcerer of great knowledge. This is the response. They say, okay, this is just yet another sorcerer. He's good, but yet another sorcerer, who wants to drive you out of your land. What then do you advise? Says Pharaoh. And they answer, let him and his brother wait a while, and send unto all cities heralds, who shall bring before you every sorcerer of great knowledge. And it continues that way. And then the sorcerer comes. That's interesting. We will study this part as well. I didn't include it here. I apologize. But sorcerers come and ask for maybe not money, but ask something in return. They say, would you pay us? Right? They ask. And then start doing whatever they do. So they arrange a day between sorcerers and Moses, when we should meet and so on. And they decide on a day, a time. And on that day, they come together to kind of have let's say, a discussion in our world. A discussion, maybe, what is it called?
Duel? Some sort of a duel?
Yeah, some sort of duel, maybe, yes.
Some tournament?
Tournament, duel, discussion, I don't know. Or whatever you think.
Debates.
Debate, yes, that was the word I was looking for.
Since
And then,
since it's magicians, I thought like the Harry Potter duels.
Yeah. Especially the opening.
Kind of, right?
slide.
The wands.
So,
Said you have sticks.
so
Staffs.
I guess like even before starting what's going on here, again, we should try to take it into our life, right? Because Quran is not just telling us stories of old. This is, what Quran claims. Like, I'm not telling you stories of old. Right? There are several places in Quran accusing people who takes Quranic verses as story of old. So since we are not trying to do that, the question is like, there's a tyrant, and there are these magicians helping him, and you, or in this story Moses, with the message he carries, the truth he has, he's trying to show them that they don't have any truth with them. Truth is in the message that he carries. And of course the tyrant does not act nicely at the end. But the question is, like, since we're trying to understand the Quranic verses, the question is why Quran is talking about some tyrants and some magicians to me. So what tyrant or tyrants or what magician or magicians my creator in Quran may be referring to? So I guess that's the one question we should keep in mind. We may try to have some answers now, but inshallah it will become maybe clearer as we discuss more. But do we have any initial ideas? Like, do you have any tyrant in your life? Otherwise, like, to me, it seems like, if I don't have such figures in my life, or maybe part of me, I could just skip, okay, this verse is not about me. Right? There are such, I guess, style of readings. For instance, some people would claim that, these verses about the people who passed away and, left some heritage behind them. So since, nobody in your family passed away right now, so you don't need to read these passages right now. It's about the heritage, like how many, like what is the amount of money you should distribute between girls and boys. If you don't have anyone who passed away, or if you don't have any girls in your family or boys, you can skip these verses, they would claim. Or there are some verses about marriage, for instance. So you would say, okay, I'm not married, so I'm not, worried about how I can divorce, for instance. So at least for now, you don't have to read them. They may claim. So, but I don't want to see, I don't want to take, I don't want to accept, actually, such a guidance as coming from the eternally wise one, the wise one, the merciful one. Nothing he says can be wasted. Nothing he says can be taken lightly. So taking these verses, let's say, seriously, I'm asking the question why my creator talking about some tyrants or magicians. So let's think together, like all together, and try to find some tyrants in our life, of course, if there are any.
We are living in a democracy. I mean, maybe we can talk about some tyrants or the other side of the ocean, but here, I guess we are.
There's someone working really hard to
tyrants,
Their
exactly.
faces.
I mean, I guess as soon as we think about political figures, it's really easy. Like, doesn't matter who we are talking about. It's really easy to see the tyrant in them. That's definitely one kind of tyrants we have.
And I was thinking about like the magicians, and I was really thinking about the media, right? Like this production of
Exactly.
images and fake news or whatever, But yeah, how that can just like mislead people and also manipulate people's feelings, perceptions, emotions.
Yes, definitely. I guess from this perspective, we can also take them as magicians as well. Like they're trying to help someone by, we will see, but putting some magic in front of our eyes. Any other ideas, any tyrants that you know of?
I would say I see myself as a tyrant.
I hope not every time.
No, I can be a tyrant to myself
Okay.
in how the choices I make and how I choose to live. And my magicians, I guess, could be my desires. Maybe.
Yes, exactly. Like sometimes, like when I look at myself, I want to do something right. Like there's a message comes to me, telling me that you should do this. This is the right thing, right? And Moses comes with a message, and then my soul or my ego, whatever you want to call, just disagrees. Says, no, I don't want this. I don't want to, accept this. You're just trying to destroy my life. As the people around Pharaoh would say, who wants to drive you out of your land, who wants you to drive you out of your throne. Like my soul would say, like, whatever this message tells, it's just trying to give you misery. It's just trying to, disagree with the fact that you have power to make choices. You know what is right, what is wrong. You don't need the external entity or external source telling you what is right, what is wrong. This external source is trying to get rid of, trying to throw you out of your land, out of your throne. Just show it, you have the authority. You can make the decision.
There's a desire in me which wants to become an important person, a famous person. So I should get such and such, since now I am in the process of applying for jobs. So you should get into a place which is the best that you can enter. And the best meaning that it is this topmost university, never settle with anything decent, but it should be the best of the best. When my other side comes with alternatives, again, I guess the same thing is happening in here. Somebody is trying to drive me out of my land because I am owning this. I am the ruler of this body, this with all its qualities, like whatever you would like to name it. And then if I settle with something lower, let's say, as if I'm going to lose my credibility or value, meaning that I'm going to be driven out of my land. So then I say, what do you advise? Give me some argument so that I can defeat this other suggestion, which says, no, you don't need to go with the best. Then there's this, as if I'm looking for some sorcerers, some magicians at this point to come up with arguments that is going to cover up the arguments of the other side.
I guess, like following your logic, we can also look from a bigger scale, and societies or cultures, they also get alert when, let's say, an external source try to tell them, what to do, what is right, what is wrong. And we hear claims like, "Oh, these Muslims will, invade the entire America and will change our way of life." X will change our way of life, or even within like a Muslim communities. If, for instance, if you are part of the Turkish community, people would say, "Oh, these Arabs will change, the way we live," or "These Turks will change the way we live," the Pakistanis, or whatever. Right? We have our way of living, and we don't want others change it, because we know that it's true. It's the way it should be. I'm the king, we are the king. Turks, they are the best. Arabs, they are the best, or whatever, they are the best. And we cannot handle somebody coming with a message telling us, do you know what, the way you live, maybe it's not the way, Prophet would suggest. And the people would say, what do you know? Like, I'm coming from, I'm the descendant of X, who's descendant of Y, who's descendant of Y. Right? There's always this tyrant aspect, almost everything we do, either within, inside, or around us, and always act in a similar way. When faced with a message, faced with a truth, the first, I guess, the reflex would be, oh, it's trying to drive me out of my land, or secure zone, my throne.
I guess we can go infinitely long in terms of what are the tyrants, but another important tyrant that I can think of is well living, or living a, let's say, luxury life. And this being, for me, buying the Tesla just because I love the comfort of it, or the house, and it never stops. I mean, it doesn't mean that you need to get a car, you need to get a house to preserve yourself from cold, whatever. But there's something in me which says, well, if you're going to buy a Tesla, buy the red one. And also put the tires should be more fancier. I mean, there's no end to that. And
if you have a red car, you're more likely to get stopped by for speeding.
police.
It's actually studies have been done on that. Just so you know.
Okay.
Make it purple, not red.
Okay. So, and I will find excuses for that, because, I mean, if it sounds very, let's say, arrogant to buy something like this, and internally I know something about it, why I am willing to do this. It is much more than simply comfort, or, I mean, simply fulfilling my needs. It's something much more than that, and I know internally, but I want to find somebody to tell me with some reasonably well explanations that actually it makes sense to buy it. It makes sense to pursue such a thing.
So you call magicians to do
I
that?
have this for you. This is from a scholar of Qur'an. He said he had the nicest car. He said that it's from the Sunnah to always have a nice horse.
Okay.
And to have the best horse. And therefore he made an analogy to getting BMW or something.
Nice.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Can you send me this guy? I want to listen to his lectures.
He's a qari, like a Quran reciter.
I see.
And most of the time, like another example, I guess, when we try to read Quran in this way, like trying to implement it in our life, we see that the Quranic wisdom or Quranic message really solves a lot of issues that we have. So we have these issues, the Quranic wisdom comes, helps us, like we are about to be satisfied, and right in the moment some other alternatives comes and claim, or blame you. This is just wishful thinking. Like there's a message helps you, and there's all these, the claims saying that this is, this is just wishful thinking. There's no truth in it, just like Aiden, right? Oh, this is a sorcerer of great knowledge. So don't look any truth in it. It's just, wishful thinking. And this happens a lot. Like whenever we try to, almost every discussion that I have with my friends, let's say, when I try to, to implement the Quranic perspective and say that, okay, this happens in my life, something bad, for instance, an accident happens, or actually there's a better example that we studied, the flood. We took the flood when we were studying the story of Noah. We took the flood and see that the flood was actually for cleaning. It's a cleansing action, event. And it makes sense, it makes perfect sense. Because when I look at my life, I see all these disruptions, all these interruptions in my story of success, let's say. All these failures happens. And when I look behind afterwards, I see that, Alhamdulillah, these failures happened because they saved me from arrogance. They saved me from being deluded. Right? So I see the flood as cleaning me, and then something in my mind or some other people would say, this is just wishful thinking. There's nothing but truth. There's nothing about truth. So I guess this approach is also a big tyrant in our life. As if you have to show some numbers. Like if you're talking about the truth, it has to be measurable. It has to include some numbers. You have to do some experiments in laboratory. Otherwise, whatever explanation you come up with about the life, it's just wishful thinking.
So the people in the laboratory might be magicians as well?
Yes. Like myself. So there are very interesting parts, like even before going the main verse that we will inshallah study. The Pharaoh, when he is what is the word? Confronted? No. Confronted, yes. When he is confronted with this message in front of him, he cannot act against it by himself. He cannot, come up with another alternative. He cannot make some magic by himself. He cannot, for instance, stand and put his hands into pocket and it, comes out pink. And, you making it white, I'm making it pink. He cannot do that. He says, I don't want to accept this, so help me. How we cannot accept it. He asks for advice, not because he sees something in the message or he knows something against the message. He just say, I don't know what to do, just advise me what I'm going to do. And then they call magicians. So this reminds me our attitude, like when we talk about, I don't want to say religion, but because most of the time religion is taken as just list of do's and don'ts, unfortunately. But whenever we try to make sense of something in your life and show that it doesn't make any sense unless you attribute this thing in your life to the source of existence, that unless you accept that it's being created. We come with, come with this explanation, and what is the response is usually, I don't know what to say, but I'm sure there are some scientists who will explain this. Right? I cannot make sense of it, but we will know it, in 50 years, in 100 years, people will study it, will make sense of it. We cannot make sense of it right now, but I'm sure there are some people, who can explain this. We always escape from confronting the message. this happens the other way around as well. Like as a Muslim, for instance, I believe something, or at least I claim to believe in something, without any, let's say, ground. I say it is true because my father said so, like I raised this way, and my father, taught me all this stuff. So I am Muslim because I was born in a Muslim family. And then another message comes, shaking all your grounds. And instead of trying to see falsehood in this message, or if there is any truth in this message, what we do, do you know what? I'm sure there are some scholars who can explain this. I'm sure there are some other people, call them. They explain it. Like it's not my job to make sense of it. So both sides, I guess we do it a lot. Instead of trying to make sense of it. Of course, like there are things that we cannot make sense right now, but we don't take it as a responsibility of ourselves. Like I cannot make sense of it right now, that's a possibility, I'm a human being, but at least I should study. But at least I should, make research, try to understand myself, rather than just call some sorcerers, or just call scholars and, come on, make a debate, I hope you will win, and I will continue whatever I used to believe. This is that's usually, at least I'm talking about myself, please don't get me wrong, but this is the way I usually watch these debates between atheists and Muslims. Or believers, Christians, Muslims, doesn't matter. Deep inside, I don't mind what they say. I don't care what they say. I just hope that the believer one will win, so that, I will continue whatever I used to believe. I call these scholars so that, they have the debate for me and show me that I am right. I have every right to be tyrant. I have every right to be the Lord of the throne. So this reminded me that I always, let's say not always, but let's say nowadays, I find it strange that people talk about like converts, for instance, as if it's another thing. Like there are people who are Muslim by birth, I don't know what it means, and there are some other people who are converts. Like if you are Muslim by birth, you don't have to make any choice. You already, chosen as a Muslim.
But you do choose.
But yes, that's the thing. Like you have to choose in like one moment of your life. You have to make the decision yourself. You have to confront the magicians. You have to confront the message. Like there must be a moment of your life that you as well converted. So how you are different than, I don't know, somebody who was born in US or New Zealand or, I don't know, Iceland. Iceland is the one with the most secularism, right? Anyway, somebody was born in Iceland, made a conscious choice, and he or she is convert. It means, she's okay, he's good, but doesn't have background. Or vice versa. He made a conscious choice, that means he's superior or she's superior. What about you? Oh, I was born Muslim. I didn't have to choose. Somebody else, the scholars, magicians, chose it for me. I'm just sitting on my throne and look at them and make them, watch them making the choice.
And I just thrown in this case is it's inherited from your father. So it's taken for granted.
Yes, exactly, true. Then another interesting part, sent on to all cities heralds. So, and then they also call people, right? When they make a decision about the date and time, as far as I remember, they chose a date that everyone would be there. A specific date, maybe. So the Pharaoh and the people around him, great ones, they want people, others as well, watching it. Right? They want to show that we cannot accept such a message, we cannot accept such a thing taking place in our lens, and everybody should see it. Everybody should get scared, so that, not only saving us, our throne, but also we will save their thrones as well, little thrones. And also we will prevent somebody else rebelling against us, against these ideologies, and trying to show the truth. So one reason, one example. If you try to publish something in a scientific world which is against the mainstream ideology, they will not only, like I'm talking as a scientist, don't get me wrong, like I'm not against science or scientists, but this is what happens, this is like practically what happens. They will not only reject your study, they will humiliate you in front of others. Like they will, for instance, humiliating meaning, use your example as joke in classes. In classrooms, when they teach about a subject, they will use these first accepted and then retracted.
Retracted.
Yes, retracted studies as an example of pseudoscience or whatever they will call something. Because it's not enough to reject the idea, you have to also make others reject it as well. And I show him that I cannot accept this, but also everyone else should say the same thing with me. They should also say that this is not acceptable, so that I feel more comfortable. Like as in Pharaoh's case, he will make people accept his authority by showing the message is destroyed in front of other people. He will make others accept his authority, and we see this a lot in every circles.
So can we say that for me to buy this best car, let's say, still there's something will be disturbing from within me, but if many of the people start saying that, well, no, it perfectly fits you, you should do it, then since hearing a lot of those voices from outside, I'm going to suppress the sound from inside, and I will feel comfortable going with the car.
Yes. That's I always do. Like if I going to spend, let's say, extra $10 for something, I always ask others, say that, do you know what, I'm planning to buy this instead of that, but it has such and such and such and extras. What do you think? I'm just making them to say this, to say that, oh yes, you should spend extra bucks. I will feel more comfortable. So here's the main verse, inshallah, we will study today. Again, anyone volunteer to read the verses? First Arabic and then
قال ألقوا فلما ألقوا سحروا أعين الناس واسترهبوهم وجاءوا بسحر عظيم.
And English, please.
He answered, you throw first. And when they threw down their staffs, they cast a spell upon the people's eyes and terrified them, and produced mighty sorcery.
Alhamdulillah, like after studying this verse every time, like every time I read it, it's so powerful. All these details, you throw first, and they throw down their staffs, or they throw down. They cast a spell upon people's eyes, terrified them, produced mighty sorcery. Just one sentence, a few phrases, Alhamdulillah, such a beautiful, such a powerful verse. Let's start, inshallah. What happens? There's a gap between the verses that we studied and this verse. What happens between? Pharaoh sends heralds to see this, calls all these magicians. They come and say, "Okay, we will do it for you, but you would. We hope that you will pay us well in return." And then they arrange a date, a time, and Moses on one side, all magicians are on the other side. Now they will have their tournament, or what was the word?
Duel.
No,
Debate.
debate. Yes, they will have their debates. And sorcerers or magicians asks Moses, "Do you want us throw it first, or do you want you throw first?" And this is the reply. Moses says, "You throw first." Like, I'm thinking, why Quran is telling me such a detail? I mean, may Allah forgive me, I'm just, speaking hypothetically. But who cares, like, who threw first the staff? Like, why such details? They ask, should we or you want to go first? And also he answers with very specific reply, you throw first. Like, what is the point of such a detail for me? Of course, I'm sure there are hundreds of different readings of this. Different scholars will tell you different truthful interpretations. I guess we cannot exhaust meanings of Qurans. Even one word cannot be exhausted. So this is what I understand for now. When I read it, when I see that Moses says, "You throw first," before I share, actually, what do you think? Since there's no right answer, please feel free. Like, what do you think? Like, such details, other than cinematic experience, which it gives, it is good. It's really good. Like, having these details also good.
I also feel like strategically it makes sense, right? Even if you're saying like a debate or something, that all right, people are going to be saying something. Let's see what they have, and then it's easier for you to respond and match to it.
Yes, exactly.
Versus if you go first, you don't know what they're going to be kind of following up with, right?
Yes, definitely. Any other ideas? And so I was thinking something very similar. Like, let's see what they have. And this is, like, if you ask me, this is one of the main, or maybe the main methodology of Quran. So we see this, like, this is my understanding, on top, La ilaha illallah. It starts with, let's see what they have. La ilaha. There's no God. Like, I'm asking, how, sorry? No. I'm asking, how this computer, exists in front of me. It's so useful. Alhamdulillah, like, I'm using it, I'm benefiting it. How it is possible, I ask. And then Quran suggests me, first, look at possible other gods, other ilahs. Maybe it happened by itself, like it just pop out of non-existence and happened to in front of me. It could be, I say, la ilaha. Like, it cannot be. Some other people says, oh, it's a product of years of development. The people, had these technological advances and so on and so forth. And I ask questions like, is it be the case? Can it be the case that such a blind process of development benefiting me that much, and this piece of plastic having such a connection with me, causing all these feelings that I have, I'm benefiting and I'm thankful to it and so on. Like I'm trying to find all these possible sources of this enjoyment that I have when I use this laptop, and all these alternatives comes. Or let's say I'm looking at the apple. I ask, how does apple come to existence? Somebody says, oh, it comes from tree. And Quran says, is it? Does it? Okay, let's accept the tree as the god of the apple. What do you see in the apple? Quran would ask. I say, it's very delicious. It's delicious to you, right? I say, yes, it's delicious. Oh, such a god this tree is. It knows about your taste. It knows about your desires. It knows that you are hungry and this apple fits it very well. What else you see? Quran asks. And I say, the color is very, it's appealing. So, such a god this tree is. Knows about your sight as well. Right? And then I say, no, it cannot be. Right? All these alternatives. Some other says, oh, it's the combination of all these causes. Sunlight, water, I don't know, the earth, something, X, Y, come together, here at an apple. I ask the same questions, what I see in apple. Do I see a match between what I see there and all these possible gods they are suggested? I say, no, la ilaha, all these alternatives. And then I say, ilallah. They throw first, I see what they have, and then if I can, I neglect all of them, and I say, okay, then the creator of this apple must be all wise, all compassion, who has the power to control everything, the sun, earth, water, whatever. Whatever this God is, I believe in this God. And it's interesting, in most of the places, Quran also describes Allah, God, as Huwa la ilaha. Like, He is the one who is the only, how would you translate? Like,
He is God. Of Him there is no other deity.
Maybe, yes, but it's actually in Arabic it's the other way around, right? It's really, yes, other than whom there is no God. Like, He is the one other than whom there is no God. So you are looking for a definition of what I'm talking about. The Quran says, Huwallahu allazi la ilaha illa huwa. He is the one, other than Him there is no God. So that's the definition of the source of existence, at least as Quran suggests. You throw first. Any comments here?
I say also make a debate or argument, right? And you let the other person go first, and then the way you test if yours is stronger is, you give yours, and if it defeats the other argument, then it's stronger. But if you don't test it first, right? If you just give yours first, and then everybody says, "Oh, okay," the other person doesn't give his side. People just agree on your argument. Then you haven't tested it. And so I feel like it gives it more impact to go second.
Exactly. And then, so they threw down their staff, or they showed what they have in their hands. And Quran says they cast a spell upon the people's eyes. So whatever they showed they seem so believable, so reasonable. They seem so, I don't know, attractive or powerful. And this is usually, what we see in our lives as well. I'm trying to make sense of one thing, like how I enjoy eating this apple. What's the point of it? Why I'm here? Why I live certain amount of time and then got rolling under the earth? You ask all these questions. And then there are some explanations. People say, you are lucky. I was reading a book. The guy was saying that, oh, don't think about you will die. You are lucky that you exist. Forget the rest, like you don't have to believe anything or whatever, you just enjoy. And it seems reasonable, like it seems attractive. If I can enjoy my time, why shouldn't I enjoy my time? Some other says, oh, here are the equations for what you are looking for. It seems wise, reasonable. It seems believable. So, we're trying to make sense of life. You're asking questions like, how should I live? What is the point? What is the meaning? And all these alternatives in front of you. So here's your car, Yusuf, red one.
Red Tesla.
I didn't choose it, on purpose. It was red, and so that was a wisdom.
And it's Tesla, right?
It is Tesla, I think. Some other says, okay, just let's party, forget about all these problems, just, get drunk.
Yeah.
Some other says, rely on some pills. You have some pain in life, but there are, good painkillers. Why not use them?
Solutions.
Or, you ask, like it doesn't have to be in the negative side. Like you ask the question, how my body works, why I'm getting sick, or how am I going to get healthy again? And people says, oh, you should use medicine. If you use medicine, you will get healthy. So health comes from medicine, they would say. Some other would say, just try to relax, make, meditation, something. Or they would say, don't think about such things, just make salah, just pray. Everything that try to casting some spell in front of our eyes. And this is the life we live, right? I guess, except maybe one or two of them, which would change from one person to another, we see that they are our life. They are not something external, they are not something, we're not talking about others. Like, this is us, Yusuf, Tesla. Right?
Yoga.
Exactly. I was just telling her that you should do yoga. So this is us. And that's the other part, like they terrified them. They're not just, casting spell upon people's eyes, but also terrifying them. As if, making them, feeling them obliged to accept it. If you don't accept it, we will show you. Right? They terrified them. Some examples, I was thinking of religion, because thinking is hard. And this is so, yes, people maybe, they don't carry these signs on streets here, but we know that with every action, with every attitude, with every say, I would hear it's like, yeah, Birkan, I know, you believe something, because it's hard to think. if you start thinking, you will see what you say is stupid. And once you make this connection between stupidity and believing something, it could be science, it could be religion, it could be anything. Once you make this connection, you are afraid to be called stupid. Doesn't matter what you believe, doesn't matter the message. Because the confrontation is not about the message. It's just making a link between being stupid and believing in this, and you are terrified. Or, so this excerpt is, somebody was chosen in Canada as, what is it called, something mayor. It's like a very high position in country. And the lady, she's an, I guess, old astronaut. Scientist, let's say. And this is from her speech. Some people still distrust vaccines, believe in astrology. We are still debating and still questioning. Okay, so the first part, so she would throw some quote-unquote stupid things. They destroyed vaccines and believe in astrology. Now equate them with the rest, and you will be afraid to part of the rest, because if you do, you are same with believing astrology. Okay?
Yeah.
We are still debating and still questioning whether life was a divine intervention or whether it was coming out of a natural process. Like she's with a connotation that people still, think that it's not out of a natural process. Let alone, oh my goodness, lo and behold, making fun, random process. So if you do not think life can come out of a random process, you are same with believing in astrology. Such a terrifying thing, and she's doing it in front of millions of people watching. Just like in our story. Call everyone, send heralds to see this, bring everyone together, and then I will terrify them. Or, again, another equation we always see, religious terrorists. Right? You're afraid to be associated with this group. You have to hide it. One another thing, it seems very innocent, but to me, I personally, I really sincerely believe that, the most dangerous one. These beautiful documentaries. Documentaries about the animals. Documentaries about the life. No doubt, they are really beautiful. It's a piece of art. Alhamdulillah, like such an artistic quality manifested in this product. They are really beautiful. The narration, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Especially if it is coming out of the mouth of Sir David Attenborough. He's fantastic, alhamdulillah. So, with these documentaries, everything are so attractive, so beautiful. Going back, the first part, they cast a spell upon the people's eyes. And then, they terrified them. They are beautiful until you start listening. If you turn off the sound and watch, everything is great. But once you start listening, what you hear, life is so cruel. You have to survive. You have to fight to survive. All these poor, what is it called? Gazelles. They trying to survive desperately, but terrible Help me?
Cheetah.
Cheetah, because cheetah has to survive, and to survive you have to be powerful. So attacks, kills, destroys, and so on. These poor elephants, they are out of water. They have to travel that long distances. On the way, all these dangerous prayers wait for them. This is the life which is presented to us. Even if it is beautiful, it seems beautiful, a beautiful bird, mating with the opposite sex. All these beautiful colors, all this beautiful stuff. Once you start listening, the poor male, he has to become a clown in front of the woman, the female, sorry, in front of the female bird. He has to do all these silly, stupid things, make these funny sounds to attract her. Otherwise, he has no chance. Such a beautiful, the creation in front of you becomes a work of child. So at first they cast a spell upon her eyes, show something beautiful, and then terrified us. So we have, I guess, 10, 15 minutes or maybe 20. So let's start to finish. And then next verse says, and then we whispered Moses, throw down your staff. And lo, it swallowed up all their deceptions. So, one part. I love when Qur'an says, we whispered. There's another word is used, like a wahi.
Inspire?
I guess again, yeah, okay. So here as well, yes, use wahi, right?
Reveal.
Yes. Wahayna, yes. We reveal, we inspire. It happens with Moses' mother. When she's looking for a solution to save her baby, Creator says, we revealed, we inspired her. Or Creator would say, we inspired B to travel around your people's houses. And so anyway, we inspired. So it's not Moses, so clever, so strategic, so, talented. No, it's the message of the divine revelation. So what you should confront these messages is the revelation. Whatever you do it under the guidance of the revelation. And what happens next, what swallows up all their deceptions, is not Moses, it's not Moses' staffs, it's the divine revelation. The truth within the Quran, the truth within the divine revelation would swallow up them. Any comments, by the way? I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. And then it swallowed up all their deceptions. So what should I understand from this? What happens here? Any ideas? So why eat a snake? Why, the staff turning into snake and so on? Inshallah, we will study this in next part. But just take it as the message is presented, and it swallows up all their deceptions. Go ahead, please.
Just the idea that came to me right now, I'm just thinking, well, from the stories I heard, Moses threw his staff and it turned into a very big snake and then it ate them up. But now I'm reading here, he just throws down a staff. It doesn't say it turns into a snake. And I'm thinking a staff is such a simple thing. It's just like a piece of wood. There's nothing. He just throws it and it swallows up all their deceptions. And I'm thinking, when all these people come with all their big stories and lies and terrifying things, you just throw something so simple, so basic, like this idea that there is a source of existence, like something so simple. You just throw this out there, and that's enough. It just gets rid of all their deceptions. Just the truth is very simple. It's very basic.
A very, very beautiful point. Yes. Like they come up with all these complicated explanation about the life, and say that there can't be a merciful one. Or there can't be the one who loves, who is compassionate. I say, what are you talking about? Look at this fly, which cleans itself all the time. What kind of source, what kind of creator may create such a thing? Fly. It's so simple. Well, please, you were saying something.
So I was just thinking about random process.
Hmm.
So out of this chaotic random life should come out, as the suggestion is there. But then Quran is coming up with a fly and saying that if you can make just the wing of a fly, just gather together all your sciences, explanations, whatnot, and try to make Quran says gather together all your gods. So if my God in this domain is, we are with the whole civilization, with all our sciences, we are producing technology. Okay, gather together all your technology and make the wing of a single fly, Quran says. So as if challenging what I consider or we consider as the explanation of existence here. Quran says, okay, this explanation, does it work for this fly right now here? Does it truly explain it? Just take a look at it.
And then you would say, oh yes, it cannot, but in 500 years I will call some sorcerers, magicians, and they will make it for me. Yes. Any other comments? So about all their deceptions. It's so true that it's a dry wood, probably not even a straight one, crooked little bit. Old one, because we know in third part we will study, we know that Moses used to use this stuff, the very same stuff, for herding his sheep. And then, what is it? I don't know the English. Çalı.
Bushes?
Yeah, bushes, like getting rid of the bushes or correcting the bushes and so on. I'm sure it's an old one, dried wood, almost broken maybe. And it's enough to show that whatever you are saying is a big lie. A dry wood can help me in my life. This is the extent of the wisdom that I see in this creation. Such a relationship between me, a dry wood, can exist, and I can benefit from a dry wood. This is the wisdom in the creation. My needs are sustained by a dry wood. This is the wisdom I see in the creation. What are you talking about when you refer to random processes? Oh, but there are these equations that I know about the math. I know what you are trying to say. It will be just a beautiful description of what I'm referring to, but it will not explain it. And inshallah next week we will whatever.
Another cliffhanger.
Oh yes. Inshallah not next week but the week after. Okay, next week it's day before Thanksgiving, so it will not be here. But inshallah next discussion in our next gathering, we will go back to very beginning. So we are going backward. If you take it historically, we started with the desert life, where they already saved from Pharaoh, and then we went back to Pharaoh, and now we are going even further back to the very beginning, to origins. The first time we hear about stuff. Inshallah it will be a beautiful discussion if we are allowed to.
It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, wow, that's
So-
crazy, man.
Okay, until next week inshallah. Let's conclude. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.